Ah, so you want to talk about some biblical family drama, weak ass men, jealous ass women, incest, just a whole bunch of fuckery that was going on during this time frame of Abraham. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So what he's talking about is the story behind Ishmael, as well as the story behind Esau. Let's start at the beginning. So what you have is Abraham. He's about 80 years old, and Abraham is told that he will have a baby by his wife Sarai. Sarah is about 80 years old as well. Now, to understand where Hagar comes in, Hagar is Sarah's handmaiden. This was a handmaiden that was given to her, according to the Muslims, was a princess of the Egyptian pharaoh, to which, remember back a little while before this story, Abraham told the Egyptian pharaoh that Sarah was his sister, and technically she is his half-sister, but told her that that was just his sister, not his wife, so that he wouldn't get killed because he was a punk and was fearful of his own life. So the pharaoh took her, but then the pharaoh started having all these issues in his household and in the land of Egypt. And so he realized that what the issue was, that he was taking on another man's wife. And so he gave Sarah back. But then, when he gave her back, he gave them a whole bunch of money, a whole bunch of camels, a whole bunch of ox, a whole bunch of sheep, and a whole bunch of slaves. And one of those slaves was Hagar. Now, many Muslims will say that Hagar was a princess, a daughter of the Egyptian pharaoh. I think that's highly unlikely that he would have given his own daughter away like that to some random dude who came in. But that's according to their story. But it's also according to the Jewish story. So you got these three primary players. So then Sarah decides that, you know what, I'm too old. I'm not going to give birth. So she tells Abraham, hey, go sleep with my handmaid Sarah. You can have a baby by her, and then we'll claim that as my baby. That's how they did things back then. A person can have a child with somebody else, but then be claimed by the woman. If a slave have a child, it's claimed by the primary woman, by the slave owner. So this happens. He sleeps with her because his wife told him to. I guess he couldn't resist that chocolate. Sleeps with her. That baby is Ishmael. Now for a while, they was good to go. They were fine. But then Sarah started feeling some kind of way because of Abraham's love for Ishmael and his slave wife. So she tells Abraham, you need to get rid of this chick because I don't like her. So Abraham, he says, well, God did promise that out of Ishmael will come 12 tribes and my seed will be multiplied. So I guess he figured that Ishmael was going to be just fine. So Hagar and baby Ishmael go out into the desert. Well, she's out there, she's crying, and then an angel of the Lord come to her and say, hey, stop that crying. I'm going to make 12 mighty nations out of your son. They're going to always be at odds with the Israelites and everybody else around the world. So he said, go back and be a good slave. Don't be starting no problems with Sarah. So she goes back and returns as a slave after getting her freedom papers. Well, Ishmael grows up. He's about 13. He gets circumcised in a whole big general circumcision, entering upon the covenant of this God through the circumcision. The others will say that there is no covenant between Ishmael and this God, but yet this angel gave him a covenant, plus he got circumcised at 13 as part of the covenant with Abraham. Well, at this time frame, Sarah gets pregnant. She's about 86 years old at this point. She gets pregnant. She has Isaac. God then comes down to Abraham and said, my covenant will be through your son Isaac and not your son Ishmael, although Ishmael will be a great nation. And this is where they get the 12 princes that Ishmael had, and where the Arab tribe comes from, even though it's not exactly the Arab tribe, but they claim the heredity of it. So then Ishmael is at the little party for Isaac when Isaac is finished being nursed by his mom, and he's playing with him. Now the word is a very ambiguous word, and it can mean just playing with the baby or mocking the baby. A lot of Christians like to use the version of the word that means mocking, but it's not very definitive in the writing. So he's either playing with or mocking Isaac. Sarah get all in her feelings, and started saying that I don't want Ishmael, that slave woman baby, to have any parts of the inheritance, because we done got rich off the Pharaoh when you pulled the okie doke and pimped me out. We done got rich off of Amalek when you pulled the same okie doke and pimped me out to him. So I don't want this little joker getting no inheritance. So she trying to protect the money. Plus she's a little salty because Ishmael is the oldest son, and technically the inheritance is supposed to go to the oldest son. But because this God said that Isaac will be the inheritor of the covenant, they kick Ishmael out and his mama Hagar. Now, Ishmael goes out and his mama, and they got some bread and they got some water. It's kind of messed up to send them out into the desert with just bread and water. So they go out into the desert with some bread and water. And while they're out there, they run out of bread and water. Now, Ishmael, his mother Hagar doesn't want to see Ishmael die. So she sets him off way over there, and she sit way over here because she don't want to watch him die. She's a mom. So then an angel then comes to Hagar again and said, I got you. Don't worry about it. I'm going to make a mighty nation out of your son. He's a wild donkey of a man, and he's going to be at odds with everybody. But we're going to make a nation out of your son. So he springs up a well, and they go and they live at this well, this oasis. The Muslims say that they lived at this oasis, and that's how they made money, and so on and so forth. The Jewish story is that they had the well. They did pretty well at the well, but then they started wandering around till they landed into another area, and that's where they made the encampment. And during this time frame, this is when Ishmael becomes a mighty archer, right? And then Ishmael has a couple of wives, has a whole bunch of sons, the 12, and then he also has a daughter named Basemath. Now, why is Basemath important? Because when we look at the Esau story, Esau was a hunter, a mighty hunter. And although he was the firstborn, he was hungry, and he sold his birthright to his little conniving ass brother Jacob, right? No, Isaac, Jacob. Yeah, he sells his birthright to his conniving brother Jacob. Isaac doesn't even pay attention. He blind, barely can't see. Plus his old conniving mother, Rebecca, she kind of helped trick Isaac into giving Jacob the birthright, the blessing. But yeah, he sold it. He sold his birthright initially for a bowl of soup. Wasn't the smartest thing to do. Probably didn't think it was actually sold, since he knew he was going to get the blessing from his father. So Esau, who is a mighty archer, see the archer theme comes back in. He accepts it. He goes on with his life while Jacob runs off to marry his both first cousins, Leah and Rachel, and have 2 slave wives, and then have the 12 tribes of Israel. But during that time frame, guess who one of the wives of Esau is? Basemath. That's right. Esau marries his great aunt. His great half aunt. Because he marries Ishmael's daughter, Basemath, which is his half great aunt. So a little incest in there for you in the story. But there's the common thing with them being an archer, and the common thing of them being wild. But at the end of the day, it's really just propaganda for those who were outside of the covenant that this God had through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to make those births of the first sons illegitimate to the covenant with this God, so that the Jewish people can pass their line on up through King David and Solomon and all of those people. Now, one interesting thing about it, Basemath's father is Ishmael. Her mother is an Egyptian woman that her grandmother Hagar went to Egypt and got for Ishmael. So she went and got Ishmael some chocolate. And because she's Egyptian, then that's another reason why the propaganda is so much against Esau and Ishmael, because of their Egyptian bloodline. But yep, it's some family drama, coveting the money, don't like the other woman, that side chick, as well as let's get some incest thrown in there. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey. good vibrations.